Hey guys, Huzzy here bringing you another video. Now welcome to a brand new champion announcement video, if you will. So Ornn was officially revealed yesterday, and he looks cool, and a lot of people already in the comment section were going, Huzz, I want you to do a reaction video. What do you think of him? Just initial reaction, first impressions. So I'll say I'll probably do two videos in the next few days on this champion. This one that we're going to go over just like the basics that are on this website right now. And then when he's released on the PBE, which I think will be either tomorrow or the day after, I'll then do a gameplay video of him on the PBE like I normally do. But the first thing to say is he looks cool. Like, look at this dude. He looks like there's a race in WoW that he's kind of reminiscent of, but he kind of is like half that race and half a dwarf. It's like the people from Pandaria, like the China people. He's like half of that and half dwarf, and now you've got this champion called Ornn. So he seems to be now League's blacksmith, and obviously Poppy was kind of a blacksmith as well, but this dude literally is creating upgrades for items and doesn't have to shop. But anyway, we'll go through it. So, intro, Ornn, the fire below the mountain. My voice probably isn't epic enough to kind of do this justice, but more than most demigods, Ornn values his privacy. So he is a demigod, which I believe puts him on the same level as Bard and stuff like that. I think that's maybe what they're doing. They're trying to create a demigod for each part of League. I guess Aurelian's one, Bard's one, this dude might be one, so there's that. He values his privacy, dwelling in solitude beneath an ancient volcano. He stokes bubbling cauldrons of molten stone to forge items of unsurpassed quality. Yet from these depths Ornn senses trouble. Divine beings are once meddling in mortal affairs. During the upcoming war, the Feljord and the world will need a good blacksmith. So that's his background. So he's a blacksmith and he's coming out of hiding. Kind of very reminiscent as well as Galio, that Galio wakes up in front of a city of Demacia when there's trouble. Ornn's kind of waking up from the mountain, you know, to go help the Feljord. So that's pretty cool. So his abilities, so passive, again, we'll do a read through of it and then we'll look exactly what it does. So there we go. Just making sure that my camera isn't blocking anything. Living Forge and Master Craftsman. Living Forge. Ornn can spend gold to forge items for himself at any time he's out of combat. For convenience, suggested items appear in a special on-screen menu. Ornn can also open the shop manually to build any item. Master Craftsman. Ornn and his teammates have access to special upgrades to select items in the shop. Each player is limited to one of these upgrades. Now, I'm not going to have them as specifically here, but they have been officially released what these items are. And there's Infinity Edge, Rabadons, there's some tank items. The one thing that is missing from these upgrades is a lethality item, so that might get put in eventually. I know Black Cleaver is in there as well. So basically what that means is if Ornn is on your team, you can buy an upgraded Rabadons. You can buy an upgraded Infinity Edge. So this guy already sounds a little bit strong, that you're basically enabling your team to just get stronger by themselves. Simply, hey, Infinity Edge is a really good AD carry item. Yeah, have an upgraded version that the enemy AD carry can't get. That does seem quite good. They have released the prices, by the way. So for support items that are upgraded, and again, there's only a few, there's not many to choose from, but they're 500 gold extra to get the upgrade, where all the other items, so all the big tank items, all the damage items, whether it be AD or AP, are an extra 1,000 gold. So they're not cheap, and I do believe it's kind of like a Victor thing, if I'm not mistaken, that you can kind of purchase the upgrade like later. So you buy Infinity Edge and then you buy the upgrade on your next back or something like that. So that's interesting. So let's see what it looks like. Again, I'm allowed to do this. So he's creating something and then he's just created an item. So the idea, because some people say, what do I think about him actually never having to go back and buy? Obviously, he may have to go back to get health or mana if he is a mana champion. Are you a mana champion, Ornn? I can't remember. I don't know what that is. That does not look like mana, unless it, I don't know, it's new, but that doesn't look like mana. So, unless he's very low health, he won't have to leave lane, which could make him a very strong split pusher in theory. And one thing I've already thought about, because a lot of people go, yeah, you get him low health and he has to go back. Well, why doesn't he just buy, like, you know, he looks to be a tankish character, right? So why doesn't he second buy, or even first buy if you can get enough health, of Warmogs? If you get Warmogs early, get that regen going, then you'll never have to go back. That seems, in my head, quite interesting. Anyway, let's move on to the queue. Volcanic Erupture. Ornn slams the ground, sending out a fissure that deals physical damage and slows enemies, so he's physical. We can say that right now. After a small delay, a magma pillar forms at the target location, functioning like a tiny wall for a few seconds, okay? Have a look. So a little decent range. Okay. Ooh. That seems interesting. I'll watch that again. So to me, it looks like a Malphite Q mixed with this tiny bit of Anivia wall. And that's, by the way, what I'm already thinking, and how you're going to see me dissect this champion is how, like, someone like me can play so many champions. Because a lot of people go, how are you jumping onto different champion without much backlash? It's because I always apply new abilities and different champion abilities to other champions. So I initially just went, okay, Malphite Q, slow, and it follows somebody by the looks of it, relatively, and has the Anivia wall, like one pillar of an Anivia wall. So in my head, I know how that ability works. W. All right. Okay. Bellows Breath. Ornn becomes unstoppable, shields himself, and belches out flames. These flames deal a portion of the enemy's current health as magic damage. Enemies struck by the final gout of flame become brittle. Ornn basic attacks knock back brittle targets, and then when brittle, enemies suffer a portion of their maximum health as bonus damage when struck by immobilizing effects. Immobilizing effects also last longer when used on brittle enemies. So this is kind of where Ornn's bread and butter is, this whole brittle feature. So what does that mean in the theory? Well, he's got a passive that he applies to somebody called Brittle. If that person is brittled, then basically all CC effects last longer on that person. So let's say you make someone brittle and then a Leona ult comes on top of that person, they're going to be stunned for longer. Me and my friend Gals had a joke about if he brittles a target and Morgana Binds hits them, they can probably go AFK, get a cup of tea and come back, because that Morgana Bind is going to last a crazy long time. But let's see how it actually looks like in game, or what does the indicator. Okay, so there's the indicator for somebody being brittle. Obviously, this is a brand new feature to League of Legends. It's basically the same as someone being frozen. So when Nivea gets bonus damage on her E, in order to get that bonus damage, someone needs to be frozen, whether by her Q, her ultimate and max rank, or other champions like Sejuani freezing targets. This is just a new version called Brittle. But there we go. Looks pretty interesting. E, Searing's Charge. Ornn charges, dealing damage to enemies he passes through. If Ornn collides with terrain while charging, the impact creates a shockwave that deals damage and knocks up enemies. This ability destroys player-created terrain. So Shaco boxes, stuff like that. He'll just walk through it and just destroy it all. So here we go. So it's basically, and this is where I say old champions are struggling, that's just a mini Malphite ult. A situational mini Malphite ult. That it doesn't actually look that much less range like a Malphite, if that's maximum range. We don't even know if that's maximum range. But obviously the situational part is, in order to get the knock-up, he has to hit a surface. He has to hit terrain, or obviously Malphite doesn't. But very, very similar. Boom, 3 knock-up, and there we go. Pretty strong in teamfight situations. Again, a lot of teamfights always happen around walls and terrain. Him in the middle of that, that's gonna, and that's an E. That will probably maximum at a maximum rank probably be about a 15-second cooldown, comparing to a Malphite ultimate, which is what, a 50-second cooldown. So that's pretty strong. And then his ultimate. Call of the Forge God. Ornn summons a massive fire elemental at a target location. It then travels towards him with increasing speed. Enemies run over by the elemental, take magic damage, and become brittle. That's his effect. Ornn can recast his ability to charge forward. If he strikes the elemental with the charge, he'll redirect it. The redirected elemental will then knock up all enemies struck, dealing the same damage as before and applying the brittle effect again. So this is where new champions can seem a bit complicated, especially to new players in the game. So literally, he's throwing a massive ball. We'll see it in a minute. Ball over there. It runs towards him. He then runs at the ball, and then it runs away from him. To me, these abilities, I'm going to say it and it might sound bad, are like diamond abilities, if that makes sense. That they'll be very well used in diamond, people understand them. But when this champion undoubtedly will be played in bronze, it'll just be a mess. Like, that's my thought already. It will be a mess. So that's how long range it is, by the way. From there, it then runs directly at him. Now, what I don't know is if Ornn moves, does that change the direction of the ram? I don't think so, because you can clearly see it's got like a little line that's directly running. But anyway, so it runs through, does some damage, applies brittle. It's a bit laggy apparently. Let's do that again. So runs through, pushes away. Okay, we'll do that again. So it makes it to him. He then runs into it and then bunches it back, and then they get knocked up while applying the brittle effect. You can definitely see, obviously, these are two tanky-ish characters, so they might be like tankish, but it's not doing damage. This is not a damage ability. This is just simply a displacement ability, and I think that's what Ornn is. Ornn, to me, is just going to be basically a full tank, from what I can see. Anyway, playing as Ornn. Ornn prefers things to do him... Ornn prefers to do things himself. He dislikes bartering with the Rift's merchants, so he forges his own gear. If he can't pin his enemies to terrain with Searing Charge, he brings the terrain to them. Ah, that's a good combo. So what we said about the knock-up, that if there's not a terrain around, guess what's a terrain? His Q. So that Q that creates that little bit of a wall. If it creates that bit of a wall, then W's into it. I think it's W or E. That'll give him the knock-up. That's the knock-up right there. So we'll see how they actually play it. They'll probably show us. So there's the Q. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, okay. So they did the knock-up. Is the ram coming? Oh, you can displace it like that. Wow, okay. That's interesting. He seems very spammy. So in this mess, or what's happening here, he uses the ability to get that little bit of wall and then gets the knock-up. Because you can clearly see he doesn't get the knock-up from that. He gets the knock-up from the little bit of wall. Then the ram misses, but then he redirects the ram. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. It looks like there's fire, like a little bit of mess going on. But Ornn is a leader on the battlefield. He initiates fights for his teams with the calling of the Forge God, his ultimate, and then charges in and then just goes nuts. So he is going to be an engaging... everybody focus me. I'm not going to die very easily, which looks pretty interesting. So, tips and tricks. Ornn's lane staying power, which I mentioned to you guys, is like he can just stay in lane forever. If you build a Warmogs, maybe you'll never have to go back. And basically, you know, itemization to make sure you don't have to go back and stuff. So, you know, even like the component to the Warmogs that gives you regen, probably get that in the early game. Since each of Ornn's abilities can build one of his unique item upgrades, Ornn's teammates effectively have a higher gold cap than their opponents. This is what I mentioned about. You're literally buffing. If the game gets to an hour-long game that both teams have a very similar team comp and have the same amount of gold, whichever team Ornn is on is going to have a slight advantage in items because they get to have an upgrade. The enemy team can't, so that's kind of crazy. Other champions who create terrain, Trundle, Azir, etc., synergize extremely well with Ornn, and because he'll use their terrain as the knock-up. So Anivia Wall will count as a knock-up. Azir Wall, Trundle Pillar, all this stuff will count to Ornn's knock-up that he has to hit a terrain in order to get the knock-up going. And then his actual splash art, so that's his base splash art, and this is his skin, his launch skin, which looks to be like Thunderlord or whatever, like the Volibear skin. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, that's Ornn. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my little breakdown. If you did, throw a like on the video. If you do want to see me definitely play him when he gets launched in the PBE, throw a like on the video. Let me know what you think of him in the comment section below, and that's going to do it for the second video. More gameplay to come in probably the next few days as the second video again. And then also the Warhammer series will be starting probably on the weekend. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, sorry, like on the video, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.